Hello and welcome. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are going to crack the code on a single, really chunky GCSE biology exam question. And by the end of this, you're not just going to know the right answers, you'll understand the strategy behind how to get every single mark. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to peek behind the curtain at what the examiners are actually looking for. Then we'll dive deep into question 07, breaking it down part by part, from the 1 markers all the way up to that massive 6-mark challenge. And we'll finish up with the key techniques you can use to really boost your grade across the whole paper. All right, first things first, let's get to know the tools we're working with today. We've got an official AQA exam paper and, crucially, the mark scheme that goes with it. And this is just brilliant because it really gives us a look behind the scenes. On the left, you've got the paper you'd see in the exam hall. But on the right, that's what the examiner has. It's their secret guide, telling them exactly what wording gets the marks. It's like having the answer key before you even start. Now, we are zeroing in on just one question today, question 07. It's a real beast, I'll admit, covering a bunch of different topics. But trust me, by really mastering this one, you'll learn skills that you can apply to the entire exam. Okay, let's get right into it with the first part of the question. These are the kinds of foundational marks that really set you up for success later on. So the first question is a pretty straightforward 1 marker. Describe what happens to cells when a tumor forms. It's basically asking for a definition. And here it is, the exact wording from the mark scheme. To get that 1 mark, all you need to say is that the cells grow or divide either abnormally or uncontrollably. See those slashes? That just means any of those combinations will do. It's simple, it's precise, and it's a guaranteed mark if you know it. All right, next up, question 07.2. Now this one is a little different. It's asking you to look at a diagram and find the evidence. It's all about applying what you know. So here's that figure 11 from the exam paper. You can clearly see there's a tumor in the lung, but there's also one down in the liver. And that's the absolute key here, the fact that the cancer is in more than one place. And what's so useful to see here is how many different ways you could get the mark. The mark scheme is flexible. You could say it's spread to other organs or name the liver specifically. You could also use the term secondary tumor, or if you want to sound really scientific, you can use the word metastasized. Any of those gets you the point. Right, let's move on to the big one. This is a level of response question, and it's worth a massive 6 marks. Honestly, this is the kind of question where top grades are made or lost. So the question asks you to explain 3 completely separate symptoms, tiredness, frequent infections, and bleeding, and link them all back to a low number of blood components. To get those top marks, you absolutely have to talk about all 3. Okay, this is what a perfect answer looks like, all broken down. For tiredness, you've got to make the link. Fewer red blood cells means less oxygen gets around, which means less aerobic respiration, so less energy is released. For infections, you link fewer white blood cells to a weaker immune system. That means fewer antibodies are made and less phagocytosis happens, where the white blood cells basically eat the germs. And finally, for bleeding, it's a direct link. Fewer platelets means your blood just can't clot properly. A top-level answer connects all these dots, logically, for all 3 symptoms. So the question now completely changes gears and moves on to treatment, specifically blood transfusions. This is where they test your understanding of blood types and the immune system. Okay, question 07.4. There are 3 marks up for grabs here, and you get them by explaining exactly why it's so dangerous to give a patient with Group A blood from a Group B donor. This is a classic cause and effect chain. It's a 3-step process. First, the patient's anti-B antibodies attack the B antigens on the donor's blood cells. Second, this reaction makes all the red blood cells stick together in big clumps. And third, those clumps are way too big to fit through the tiny capillaries, so they cause blockages, which starves the body's cells of oxygen and glucose. 1 mark for each step in that story. And now for the flip side of that question, why is blood group O called the universal donor? This is a 2-mark explanation. And this slide just illustrates the reason perfectly. While other blood types have these little markers called antigens on their surface, A or B antigens, Group O red blood cells have, well, none at all. No antigens means there's nothing for the patient's immune system to attack. So it all comes down to a really simple 2-step logic. Point 1, you state that Group O cells have no antigens. Point 2, you explain that because of this, the patient's antibodies have nothing to latch onto, so you don't get any of that dangerous clumping. And that's how you get both marks. And here's a quick little data question to round off this section. You're given a table of risks, and you just have to find the one with the lowest chance of happening. This is a pure data skill. You just have to look at the numbers in the table, and the mark scheme confirms that the lowest probability is for hepatitis C. It's an easy mark, as long as you read the table carefully. Let's move on to the final part of this question and see how everything connects back to the digestive system. This is another high-value question, this time worth 5 marks. Okay, so the scenario is this. A physical blockage is causing a chemical problem. A tumor is stopping something from getting from the gallbladder to the small intestine. We need to explain exactly why this would make it hard to digest fat. And here is the perfect 5-mark answer. It's another beautiful, logical chain. So, the blockage stops bile from getting through. No bile means no emulsification. That's where fat is broken into smaller droplets. And if that doesn't happen, there's a much smaller surface area for the lipase enzyme to attack. But wait, there's more. Bile is also alkaline. Without it, the acid from the stomach makes the small intestine too acidic. That acidic pH is all wrong for lipase, causing the enzyme to denature, which basically means it changes shape and stops working. 5 clear points for 5 marks. So, let's pull all of that together. What have we actually learned today? Because beyond the biology, we've seen the exact techniques that examiners are looking for to award those top marks. These are your keys to exam success. First, use precise scientific words like antigen or emulsification. Second, build those logical cause and effect chains, just like we did for the blood transfusion and digestion questions. Third, if a question has multiple parts, like the tiredness, infections, and bleeding one, make sure you answer every single part. And finally, always use the information they give you, like referencing figure 11 in your answer. So what this really shows us is that getting inside the mark scheme isn't about cheating. It's about understanding the rules of the game. It's not magic, it's just clear, logical, scientific communication. So have a think about your own technique. Is it about using those keywords, or is it about building those logical chains in your answers? Whatever it is, focusing on that one thing is going to make a huge difference. Thanks for joining me.